Slapping gums at each other. Any chance they get. The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo. One of the greatest knockouts you'll ever see. It's time
for you to sit back, relax, and listen to a complete and fucking utter armchair expert give his completely and utterly useless opinions on the one hell of an amazing sport that is MMA.
I saw the other day it's been 3 years since that iconic Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren knockout that is part of our intro there happened. 3 years already, happened in 2019. Man, time flies in this crazy world of the sport we all love called mixed martial arts. But yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode, is it 8 we're up to? I believe. Episode 8. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I mean, the growth's just so big, you know. I thought we were only going to be doing one episode on that crappy mic we used to have with Audacity at best, mate. But you know, mate, 7 episodes on, and here we are. And oh, mate, I tell you, I wasn't going to do a podcast. I really wasn't. You know, we did the UFC 200 review or look back or recap. You know. And I thought, UFC 277 will come around, we'll watch that, and then we'll do another podcast for UFC 278 and 279 and 280 and 300. We'll just keep on trucking, mate. You know, keep on going like I always do, like my dad does. My dad is a truck driver. But mate, as always happens in this sport we all love so much has happened. So I figured, you know, the only way to cover that would be on an episode of Australia's best MMA podcast, MMA Quick Chat. So, I've only been recording for 2 minutes, but I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, what have we got today, ladies and gentlemen, in episode 8 of MMA Quick Chat? Well, we are going to be talking about the aftermath of that stacked card that just happened the other week, UFC 276. And we're going to do a quick little recap of our take on UFC 277 because, as always happens, some things have come out that I didn't cover in the last one that we did about it that I do want to cover again. So, all that and more when we come back. Are you a listener of this podcast? Do you want to watch the UFC in comfort and style but don't know where to go? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, go no further than the Plaza Tavern out my way, because not only can you watch the UFC in comfort and in style with a great atmosphere around you and, you know, superb, nice, hearty meal, and to top it off, just a nice beer off the wood in their sports bar, which is now taking bookings, by the way. But that is not all, ladies and gentlemen. You can have a great day out there as well, because you can go out and enjoy a nice crisp whiff of cancer in their smokers area. You can also go and give your money to the government through the pokies. And when all that's done, when all that's said and done, if you've got any money left, you can go and enjoy another meal in their little bistro area over in the corner. So, ladies and gentlemen, dare I say it, not only does the Plaza Tavern provide a nice place to just go and chill out on a Sunday with your mates or even by yourself and watch the UFC, but also it's a whole day out, ladies and gentlemen. You could bring the fam after and just say, let's go out for dinner here and go home later on and go to sleep knowing that you've had a great day. So, ladies and gentlemen, I, Aidan, the man who records this podcast, do humbly recommend that you try out the Plaza Tavern, corner of Heath and Derrimut Road in Hoppers Crossing, to watch the sport we all love at. Please sponsor me. Well, dare I say it, this is going to go down as a pretty historic podcast because this is the first podcast we've ever had an ad on. Albeit a self-recorded, self-propagated ad. Please sponsor me, guys. But, I just thought, you know what, let's do something different. And let's also give a plug and a shout-out to the local where me and my mate, the one I've told you about, the one that gave this podcast its name, and could be coming on the podcast soon. Shh. I thought we'd just give a plug to the local. It's not paid for by them. I should make that clear. I wish it was. Again, happy to accept the sponsorship. Give me some of that beer money back. But, just thought I'd give the local a plug because it's a damn good place to go watch UFC. It's where me and my mate are always at. So if you want to do a little impromptu meet and greet, you'll find us there. Every UFC card, or nearly every UFC card, or whenever it's a UFC card we don't want to buy. Anyway, just come up. Well, actually, please don't, because, me and my mate, we like to have our peace and quiet at the local, but please do feel free to come and give them your business. Now that that's over, let's get on to the business at hand, which of course is recapping the events of the absolutely stacked UFC 276. So, what happened? Well, first and foremost, Cowboy Cerrone, fan favourite, the first guy me and my mate Jesse ever saw fight. Not the first guy we ever saw fight, but the guy who was on the first UFC card we ever saw together. Main evented it with Connor, of course. UFC 246, Cowboy, he retired, put the gloves down in the rings. So, if you think about it, me and Jesse have watched not only arguably his biggest fight, or one of his biggest fights, not among casuals anyway, but certainly his biggest payday anyway, but we've also watched his last fight. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, we also just so happened to watch both fights at the Plaza Tavern. So ain't that fitting? We wish Cowboy all the best and look forward to seeing him inducted rightfully into the UFC Hall of Fame, as you would have seen in our post the other day. Next, we saw Alexander Volkanovski, Alexander the Great, defend his title with a broken hand, no less, against Max Holloway in their third fight. And then he called out, Charles Oliveira, said he was going to move up a division and become the double champ, or the next double champ. Can't wait for that. That'll be one hell of a scrap. There's a lot of good fights for him at 155, actually. Gaethje, Chandler, Poirier, on and on. There's a lot of good fights for him there, so that would definitely be an interesting move. But then, in the main event, we heard, for anyone who's been a pro wrestling fan, which seemingly is not, there's probably some MMA fans who've been pro wrestling fans. I talked to one at the pub on the day it happened, actually. We heard the gong, gong with the blue smoke, and Izzy came out with the urn and the hat on like the Undertaker. I just had to do it like the announcer, sorry. But yes, Izzy decided to come out with a frankly cool entrance, really, for all people have said about it, being a pro wrestling entrance. Not to mention the fact that Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Pat McAfee were all at the UFC So clearly they knew it was going to happen and probably got a bag from it. So good for them. Hey, it's a cool song. It's probably one of the coolest pieces of music they've ever made. So good on them. And good on Izzy for, knowing pro wrestling and liking The Undertaker. Oh, actually, no, I'll get onto that after I talk about the fight. So then the fight happens, and it's... honestly, it was like everyone expected it to be. It was not particularly interesting. Izzy coasted his way to... which, I mean, look, in one sense, you got to hand it to him, He's out for longevity. He wants to stay on top. It's, good for him. Yeah, make as much money as he can while he's still got the health to. But, I mean, I do understand as well, a lot of people hated Floyd Mayweather for the same reason. And, obviously, probably a lot of people don't like Izzy for that reason either. Obviously, 5 rounds went the distance. He won. But at the end, he called out the man who, and I forgot to cover this, beat Sean Strickland in 1 round by a pretty spectacular knockout, Alex Pereira. The man that ever since he came into the UFC has had a dominating highlight reel. Everyone has been expecting at some point if he'll fight Izzy. Now it looks like it's probably going to happen because, I mean, who else is there for Izzy to fight, really? In the middleweight division, not many, other than Whittaker, again, maybe, if he were to win in Paris, which, if Pereira beats Izzy, which, I don't know, I don't know if I want to call it yet. I will say he's probably got the best chance in the whole division of beating Izzy right now. But if he beats Izzy, you would think his defense would be Whittaker. And who knows whether or not Whittaker can win the belt back. It'll be interesting. Otherwise, if Pereira loses, you'd think it's probably Izzy Whittaker 3. Hopefully in Australia. I do hope the next one's in Australia. It deserves to be. Australia deserves a stacked card after the 2 years it's had. Volk, Izzy, Bam Bam, put all the Aussie fighters on it. Jakey Matthews, fucking... By the way, actually, I don't know if I should... Yeah, what a performance he had at UFC 275, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that. He just dominated Australia, dominated on that card. I think I did. I think I might have mentioned it. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway. But yeah, Australia deserves a stacked card with all the Aussie fighters on it. Give them all a chance to show out their skills in front of Australia again. Hopefully in Melbourne. I hope it's in Melbourne, Marvel Stadium again, because me and Jesse are going. If it is, you'll see us both there. But yeah. So Pereira beats Strickland. He's now going to get Izzy, more than likely. But there's something I caught on to after the fight that was interesting that I did want to briefly cover. Izzy said that after his career is over, he's going to transition to WWE. That is interesting because you would think he doesn't really have the body type for it. Unless he really bulked up. Because you got to have a lot of upper body strength to do that stuff. Or at least a moderate upper body strength. Like, you can't be, skinny and lanky like he is and try and do that sort of stuff. So, but I don't know. He'd be interesting in WWE. He could definitely talk. So I reckon he could probably cut promos. I just wanted to briefly cover that as well. While I'm talking about him and his last fight. But anyway, that is my brief recap of UFC 276. And when we come back, I will talk about the developments with UFC 277 that have all of a sudden got me a hell of a lot more interested in this upcoming card than I was before. All that and more when we return. So I talked about, I think, 2 podcasts ago. It was I do remember it actually because it was the card where I did 3 cards in one, talking about 275, 276, and 277, which is why I wasn't going to do another podcast talking about that particular card. But as I said, there's been some developments or one particular development anyway, that have made me want to talk about it. So I will. Now, in reference to 277, I said on the last podcast that there was only 2 fights I was particularly interested in on it. One was Luke Rockhold versus Costa, and the other was obviously the main event being Nunes versus Pena 2. That hasn't changed. They are still fights I'm interested in. What has changed was, I believe on the day of or the day after UFC 276, the UFC 277 poster came out, and on it I saw Kai Kara France versus Brandon Moreno is happening. And all of a sudden, my interest was sparked because I'm like, oh, fuck, yes, that is going to be a fucking scrap. Because I would assume anyone who's an MMA fan would know, Kai Kara France trains at the same gym as Izzy does, City Kickboxing in New Zealand. So they're, from what I've heard, a pretty fucking good MMA gym. They've trained Izzy, obviously they've trained Dan Hooker, and now Kai Kara France, who's a savage, coming up through the ranks. Now he's got a title shot. Hopefully he wins. Would be really nice to see him win the championship. And hopefully if he does and he manages to keep it, he gets on that Aussie card I'm hoping for. Oh, we'd be in for a treat. Like, me and my mate, like, we've missed so many things. We missed UFC 243 in Melbourne, which we're going to buy the poster of. I'm like, nah, we're not buying the poster of that. It would just fucking make me cry every time I saw it. The card that Izzy won the title on, it just, I don't know how we missed that. And you know what's funny? I realised it later too. We became fans of the sport. That was UFC 243. We became fans of the sport. Our first ever card we watched was UFC 246. 3 months after that fucking card. So if we just started watching 3 to 6 months prior, we likely would have fucking seen that card. Could have even gone to it. I wish we'd gone. Oh. Yeah, I'm not annoyed about that at all. No, that talking about that does not annoy me at all. Jokes. But yeah, no. I hope Kai Kara France gets up and wins. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man, that's got me a hell of a lot more interested for this card than I was before. Yeah, I don't know what way it'll go, but I hope Kai Kara France wins. That would be really good to see. Really good for him and really good for City Kickboxing as well, I imagine. To have had, people like, 2 UFC champions and possibly more. So yeah, that's what I wanted to mention because I forgot to mention it in the last one, but that'll be it for this one, guys. I may, as I said, be doing a podcast in the near future with my mate. He has raised the idea. We'll have to get together and do it at some point. I'll bring the laptop and whatnot over and we can just chat shit, basically. I'll probably talk about how we got into MMA and how we missed the Aussie card and fucking blah, 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 whatever else. We'll just talk about whatever. I'll warn you right now, it's probably going to be the longest podcast I've ever done. It's more than likely going to be an hour or more, I'd say, quite possibly. So just be prepared for an MMA Quick Chat. It's ironic because he came up with the name. Just be prepared for an MMA Quick Chat that is not so quick. But yeah, anyway, guys, till next time, catches. How did I forget to mention you can play pool at the Plaza Tavern? Yes, guys, you can also play pool or lose playing pool, like I often do, at the Plaza Tavern. So it's just, it's the perfect place to go to watch UFC or just have a day out with your mates. all by yourself, have a day out on the drink, let loose. Go to the Plaza Tavern. You won't regret it.